Good afternoon. We are happy to host Natural Capsules in PhillipCapital Ground View Conference in this session, and the Managing Director, Mr. Sunil Mundra, he is representing the company. And hi sir.
Hello.
I welcome you to the conference, Ground View Conference of PhillipCapital. What we have seen in your performance that having seen a kind of a multi-year of a staggered performance or a kind of lattice growth performance, in the recent couple of years, we have seen a rapid progress in terms of revenues as well as profitability. The more interesting aspect is the rapid expansion in the profitability or margins. So, could you give some sense about your gelatin capsule, empty capsule business and its kind of a progress, what the way that you have seen, and what led to this kind of profitability jump? Can you just share that, and subsequently post that you can also give some outlook about the industry as a whole, because this is not a kind of a very familiar industry to the public. So it is, if you can give some sense about the industry as a whole also.
Yeah, our performance in last 2 years has been significantly good. The growth in both top line and bottom line can be seen. The revenue growth has come from two factors. One, of course, in the expansion in capacity. Our capacities have grown from 7 billion capsules per annum to 10 billion in the year FY21 and to 12 billion in FY22. A part of the revenue growth has also come from net improvement in our net sales realization per unit of production. So as far as bottom line is concerned, our introduction of new age high speed machines have brought in newer efficiencies which have added on good margins there, and of course the industry did well, so our margins have improved even otherwise as well. So talking about the empty gelatin capsule industry, India is a significant player in the empty gelatin capsules scenario across the world. India currently has about 240 billion capsules capacity out of 1 trillion capacity across the world. Of course, China is the other significant player with about 45% of the world scenario. In India, the capsule segment is mainly catering to pharma. A part of it is going to Ayurvedic and nutraceutical business. Capsule industry as such did well in conjunction with pharma industry. Pharma industry has done well during last 2 years, especially due to the COVID scenario. But I am of the opinion that a large part of the growth also came from the consumption of nutraceuticals and preventive healthcare medicines, which I see a significant change in the lifestyle of the consuming public, where these changes are of a kind of a permanent nature or maybe semi-permanent nature. So this demand pattern is going to be there. We have seen similar demand scenarios in across other economies, large population countries across the world, where we have seen that the post-COVID also the demand pattern is going to be good, and nutraceutical demand is going to be continuous. So I see empty capsule industry, which is a part of ingredient supplying to pharma industry, doing well. And as you know that pharma industry, despite all whatever ups and downs in the stock market, but they are doing well, and the growth in both the regulated markets as well as in the rest of the emerging markets is good. I see a good future for pharma industry.
So having or kind of a 3x kind of expansion in the capacity is what you are trying to achieve, which will be possibly achieved this year itself, from 8 odd billion capsules to 24 billion. So what would be your position in the empty capsule space in the Indian market, and what would be your aspiration to become here? Do you see further expansion here? The scope of growth is there in terms of volume. Some outlook there?
Yes, so post this current ongoing expansion, we would have achieved installed capacity of 24 billion capsules, which would be say around 10% of the Indian capacity. We would be one of the second largest player, of course the largest player being the ACG group. The constant demand or the CAGR growth of 8 to 9% which the pharma industry has been experiencing will of course necessitate that we further expand. But going forward we would also want to look at other alternatives like expanding in other geographies of the world. As you would have seen in the last 2-3 years, there is a significant jump in the freight costs. Our product being highly temperature and heat sensitive, low value but high volume product has got a high component of freight cost in its total cost of production, and hence it makes more sense to put up factories nearer to the places of consumption. So I feel that going forward probably we would be looking at opportunities around various different high population countries where the demand for capsules is there, and we have identified such opportunities and working towards that.
So currently what portion of your business is export oriented, sir?
Our currently last year I think we did about 25 crore out of 135 crore, which makes it about roughly 22%.
And there is a kind of progress that you are witnessing?
Yes, we are witnessing that. There's a traction in that.
Okay. And I think another topic that the API manufacturing opportunity, I think the market got positively surprised with the with natural capsule not being there in the API manufacturing, got the PLI approval for 3 complex steroid manufacturing, and it seems that natural capsule will be the solo manufacturer of at least 2 of these 3 steroidal APIs, for which India has been entirely dependent on China. So I think this is a kind of achievement, and if you can just tell the story about it, how could you manage to get that, what is the right to win there for natural capsule and way forward?
Of course, talking about the API business, we started looking at APIs as a diversification program back in 2018. Initially, we identified steroidal API as a major focus segment, therapeutic segment where we wanted to work with. We thought that we would start doing what the others are also doing, like importing N-1 intermediates or base APIs from China and make derivatives of them and sell them. But we realized that that's a very competitive business, margins are less. So then we started further investigating and identified that making the base intermediates or key starting materials in India would make much better sense. So we then identified what are the resources required, and we could get such resources linked with us, and they came on board, and then we started R&D of these products back in August of 2018. So we were much ahead of PLI scheme introduction, which came much later in March 2020 post COVID introduction. So I think we were basically focused on manufacturing these items purely from the idea that there exists a huge opportunity in India, because from the export import data we could see that annually huge quantities of these products are getting manufactured, getting imported into India. So we could target those markets by getting these products manufactured from the base level in India. Unfortunately, our country has the basic raw material available in India. In fact, the Indian companies manufacture the basic raw material, phytosterol, which is required to manufacture these products, is going from India to China in large quantity. So we identified that, and then we understood that if we are able to crack this whole chain of synthesis and both the fermentation, we are going to be successful in manufacturing this. So once the R&D was set up, so stage by stage we have been able to successfully complete these at least 2 products, hydrocortisone and prednisolone, at kilo scale level. Prednisolone of course has been in the gram level in the second fermentation, and the dexamethasone and betamethasone again in gram level, and we have completed all the chain synthesis right up to these final base APIs. We are also parallelly working on the derivatives of these APIs, which are going to add value to our both top line as well as bottom line, and would be helpful in realizing our targets for the PLI.
So 2 interesting points that I picked from your statement, sir, that your PLI project or the project for this API manufacturing of steroids, So that has been on much before the PLI, and so that means your project got qualified for PLI, and that's an additional boon for your expectations.
Right.
That is interesting one. And secondly, I think you mentioned also that key starting material for all this steroidal product API manufacturing. I think phytosterol you mentioned, which is a India source based product only. So that means it is completely free from China.
Yes, I would say that the base material phytosterol is available in India in sufficient quantity, and subsequent most of the materials are solvents, chemical reagents, maybe except few, all are available in India, and we would be completely be free from dependency on Chinese imports.
And if I remember correct, then this PLI project is particularly about the steroidal API manufacturing. This is qualified for 20% kind of incentive on sales. So then it is a bigger boon than anybody can possibly expect for their project, because you would have obviously starting the operation as a backward integrated operation, and that is getting qualified under PLI and bringing in a 20% kind of incremental incentive to the sales. Then what additional incentive one would really expect?
Yeah, just because we had started our R&D back in 2018, and when the PLI scheme got announced, so we were also happy that we would be participating in that, but at that time we were also anxious that we should be the one, we should get it, because we had already invested heavily into the R&D. So we did quote aggressively on that, and we did quote aggressively on capacities also. The government wanted to quote us for 2 tons, totally 4 tons of dexamethasone, betamethasone. But when we checked the EXIM data, we found that India was importing 20 metric tons of betamethasone and 15 to 16 metric tons of dexamethasone, its intermediates. So we quoted for 12 metric tons of betamethasone and 10 metric tons of dexamethasone. Whatever projections we have given, we have not considered PLI benefits at all. PLI has come with a lot of its own conditionalities. So we are confident we would receive those benefits. But for the purpose of all the projections to bankers, to whomever the investors we have given, we have not considered those.
Okay. So just on the PLI projects, sir, the kind of a funding means a kind of a capex requirement, the funding, the way of funding that you are doing for that, and the progress of the plant, and finally the realization of the business. So how quickly that can happen, if you can give?
So originally, before we bid for PLI application was made, the project was appraised for about 68 crores to be funded by 48 crores of term loan and 20 crores of investment by the holding company. This business was transferred to a subsidiary company, by the way, and to take advantage of the lesser rate of income tax. So subsequently, when the project report was made for a higher capacity to meet the PLI objectives, the project cost was increased to 96 crore, and the funding was to be made out of the right issue proceeds, which we have done, and which will realize about 32 crores effectively over this current year. So we are seeing that this project is equally balanced between debt and equity, 48 crores of term funding and more or less 48 crores of in terms of equity contribution by the holding company. So I see this project now currently under construction phase. By end of current financial year, we would have completed the validation of equipment and all that. We hope to start commercial production in the first quarter of next year. As we have done R&D on most of these and put them products under stability, we have taken so far 25 test licenses for various base and derivative steroidal APIs, and at least 10 of them have gone into stability. So as the stability data will be ready, we will do the tech transfer from our R&D center to the commercial site, and the drug authorities would allot the commercial manufacturing license immediately. So we hope to start the commercial production in the new facility by around first quarter of next year. Having said that, we are implementing the whole project of fermentation in 2 phases to check whether the ordered equipment needs any further modification. So we have done that way. So I think another 6 months down the line, we have the second phase coming up. So in the first year, the whole potential of the project will not be achieved. We still hope to do reasonably good, maybe one time the asset turn in the year. But going forward, in the second year, we definitely hope that when the full scale capacity is in place, we should be able to do about 1.8 times the asset turn. And we are targeting customers immediately for those who are immediately importing KSM and intermediates and base APIs from China. Maybe going forward, start selling the derivatives to customers. Most of them are our customers as well. Then also looking at large Indian companies who are importing finished derivatives from China for regulated markets. So maybe a few of those we would want to tie up. But we are also seeing good traction of demand from European, Japanese and US buyers. In fact, we have LOIs from Japanese buyer who wants to seriously work with us to tie up to procure their own APIs, which currently they are solely dependent from China. So this China plus one policy across world is going to be a big kind of a help for our API effort.
So you mentioned about near about 1.8 to 2x kind of asset turn for this business, considering these three products. But you are simultaneously saying that derivative opportunity, supply to advanced market, Japanese supplies and all that. So given all those, don't you think it is a much larger potential?
So when I am saying derivatives, the PLI scheme allows derivatives sales also. Okay. The base API when consumed internally for manufacture of derivatives will be considered for the purpose of PLI calculation of capacity. Okay. So when I say derivative, it is a value added API. I would mean that way. Okay. So I think the derivatives would bring in better margins as compared to base API. Like if I am talking about betamethasone or betamethasone dipropionate or betamethasone sodium phosphate, they will definitely have a better value addition. Going forward, we are looking at further value addition by going in for sterile APIs, for further advanced molecules on these APIs, user-friendly dosage delivery systems which are working on with some of the scientists and some of the universities. So I think there's a good future. Maybe down the line 1 year, maybe FY 25-26, we are targeting a project to get qualified for regulatory audit. Okay. And that's when the whole API project will bring the real fruits. Okay. Yeah. So any new greenfield project of API would require first 3 years of sustenance.
So then it is, I'm really glad to understand that you are one of the company who qualified in the PLI and one of the most advanced in terms of a project setup and project implementation from the PLI basket, it seems. So then I think put together PLI, this API manufacturing as well as capsule manufacturing. So from the current base, what ultimate outlook that you are having?
So I think in FY 25-26 we should be doing a 500 crore plus company with an aggregate EBITDA or a blended EBITDA margin of 20+%. Sure. That's our vision, and maybe going forward if the capsule we are able to expand at other locations across the world, will be an added bonus.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for participating in Ground View conference of PhillipCapital and sharing your outlook.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.